Now, I would like to begin with the theme of racism here. So, do you think that Hemingway was accused of racism in the novel, as well as anti-Semitism is also part of racism, and also homophobia? Okay. Now, can you give me some examples of racism? It's all over the place, but you have to tell me. Okay. So, Cone is repeatedly being dealt or referred to from the beginning. He is referred to as a Jew. Okay. Jewishness becomes a part of his identity and a referral, constant referral. Now, another thing is that what happens later in the story? How important a role does his Jewishness play?
He's always the party spoiler. He's always hitting people and he's jealous about Brett.
He's petty, right? He is the petty one. He is the party spoiler, and several times, particularly Bill, several times Bill tells him that he is not wanted, especially in Pamplona. Yeah, Mike and Bill, both of them. Yeah, Mike at one point keeps on referring to him as that Jew. Okay, so there are hints of racism, and they are not very covert. It's very overtly done. Okay, that Jew.
Also, there is this reference to how Brett was in the end, just before Pedro Romero's fight, they go to the church, Brett and Jake, and Jake notes that how Brett, Korn has left, and Brett is for the first time happy and carefree now that he's left. That's what.
So is Brett's happiness so closely related to Korn being a Jew, that because he left now she feels free, or the reason or the fact that she is free of Mike also, and also the fact that she has got Romero? Those things are there at the heart of the novel. So, apart from now Korn's Jewishness and then Bill's experience in Vienna. Did you read that part? It figures somewhere in section 2, I think. I am not too sure, but I think section 2. But in Bill's experience in Vienna, and there is a fight involving and the so-called nigger. Did you come across that? Gayatri, do you remember those passages? Yeah, can you talk about that? There is a nigger. Bill, or did you skip that? Okay, chapter 8. When he goes on and on, chapter 8. Can you go to chapter 8, please? I just want to recap whatever we have been doing. Darling, very quiet and healthy. Love to all the chaps. Brett. Chap is a recurring motif. Yeah, everybody calls everyone chaps. Why? What is chaps? Yes?
Yeah, like a term of endearment.
Term of endearment. Love to all of friends, to guys. Okay, it's used in that way. Yeah. To us, it may sound a little odd. We generally don't use the word chaps. Okay, so it must be like in a formal language, it would be my love to all our friends, perhaps that way, because she knows so many people. Brett was gone. Look at the third paragraph, chapter 8. Are you there? Do you get that? Brett was gone. I was not bothered by Korn's troubles. I rather enjoyed not having to play tennis. Remember, one was a tennis friend and one was a literary friend. Okay, So, the tennis friends were the Braddocks who we see at the beginning and then we never see. You have already told me that we are talking about a movable feast here of people. People come and go and we never meet them again. So, we are introduced to the Braddocks and George and people like that, and there is someone Howard, okay, in the restaurant, and then we never meet those people or they are not referred to again. Okay, so people come and leave. Braddocks were the tennis friends. Please go back to what we have been talking about. So, you should be able to recollect. I rather enjoyed not having to play tennis. There was plenty of work to do. I went often to the races, dined with friends and put in some extra time at the office getting things done, things ahead, so I could leave it in charge of my secretary when Bill got in and I should shove off to Spain the end of June. Bill Gorton arrived, put up a couple of days at the flat and went off to Vienna. He was very cheerful and said the States were wonderful. New York was wonderful. Okay, now breathlessness, I mean I read it in one breath. The breathlessness of Hemingway's writing. What is he trying to suggest here? Look at the syntax, look at the sentence structure. At the core, what is being suggested? What is the subtext here? Now see, Brett has already sent a card. Darling, very quiet and healthy, love to all the chaps. He did not see, he stopped playing tennis, and all these references to so many things, so many people. Well, people come and go, right? People come and go. One generation passeth and another generation cometh. The earth abides forever. You remember? This is the epilogue of the novel. The sun also riseth. Life goes on. Life moves on. Breath or without breath. With breath, without breath. With cone, without cone. So, life moves on. So, a movable feast. Are you able to get all those refs? Yeah. So, no one is going to tell you in detail that see this is what I am talking about, but this is the idea. Now, you are telling me that in chapter 8 we have, in chapter 12 I have already drawn your attention to Bill's homophobia. Remember, Abraham Lincoln too was a homosexual according to him, a faggot, and so was Jefferson Davis and all these people. Robert Kahn never had good relationship in his life. He thinks that this is the first time he has fallen in love. He thinks that, okay. So, therefore, he has to behave like a moonstruck lover and go and chase Brett all over Europe, okay. He is not given any response, and what does it do to him? It drives him crazy. The same Robert Kahn who is a boxer at Princeton, but he never hit anyone. He got smashed so badly that his nose improved forever. Okay. But the same Robert Kahn, out of sexual jealousy, wouldn't hesitate to beat Romero to pulp. So, sex explains it all. Are we clear? So, you have to look at, see this sentence occurs in the middle, rather approximately in the middle of the novel, but then you have to associate all things that happened before this and later. Performativity, because men here are always performing. Brett is a performer too, is she not? Don't just nod your head. Brett is a performer, is she not? Give me the responses. Why? Why do you think Brett is a performer? She is performing a certain role. What? Yes?
Seductive.
Okay, but she is not a seductress in the femme fatale way, is she?
She's a girl in the gang, and then she.
Only girl in the gang, yeah.
And there's a certain way she has to
Offer herself.
be around
yeah.
the men that she is with all the time.
Yes. So, the real Brett, only Jake knows. Yes, the real Brett also goes to the church. The real Brett also prays. The real Brett also says, look, I am not a nice person, I am not a religious person, are you Jake? And he says, yeah, I was raised a Catholic and all those things. Yes, but you know, her defenses are down, her guard is down only when she is around Jake. Therefore, this is love. With every other man, it's always an act. She has to act, she has to perform. Okay, if you watch the movie, and I showed you a clipping, remember the other day in the saloon? So there is a scene where Jake, unable to take her flirtations with other men, he walks out, and she peeps, looks, she runs after him to the door, and she looks out and she sees him walking walking down the street with one of the other characters. I think it's Cohen, and the dismay on her face is very obvious. And then she goes back to her gang of people, the count, the Greek count, and she resumes her flirtations and her dancing. And that means she knows that she has to act or perform in a particular way in order to move on with her life. Otherwise, what else is there for her? Okay, she doesn't have anything. She belongs to that so-called the lost generation. Yeah, so she has
adds to the sense of
alienation.
yeah, and how purposeless all of their lives actually are, where they're just sort of floating from one place to another, one social circle to another.
Very true.
Also, it shows that decadence of the English aristocracy that we discussed in Portrait of a Lady.
Portrait of a Lady?
Yeah, how she has a title but does not have any of the other, like money and
Yeah.
like towards the end they
We
discuss
know.
how they survive, how
Yes.
she survives.
Yes.
And Jake says she receives some amount of money every year, but more than half of it go as interest to the Jews. So even though she is Lady Ashley, it's the decadence of the aristocracy that.
Yes, even though she is it was based on a real character. I mean, you remember The Sun Also Rises was his first novel, and he knew a group of friends, expatriates in America, in Europe, particularly in Spain and France, and Spain and particularly Paris. And then he would hang around those places. All those cafes and salons which are mentioned in the novel very much exists, and that was Hemingway's actual, he used to hang around those places. Those were his regular haunts. Now, and he knew people. So Lady Ashley's character is in fact based on a real British lady who was several times married and divorced. And Hemingway, like all writers, was he loved to indulge in reading people, and that's the character based on. And if you look at that lady's picture, it's available on Wikipedia. Okay, you can, if you look up The Sun Also Rises and characters, she has a stark resemblance to the way she is described in the book. Okay, so it's not like he was just talking; he was really talking about the. So it's not just a he created out of imagination. Those were the real characters, and these things. And he must have come across these senses of racism, homophobia, performativity, and alienation. Bill's story is all about this Negro, okay, and he uses the word nigger frequently throughout. Okay, there are no inhibitions about using that word. So that's Hemingway's own language. And Bill says that he went to a fight where the nigger was there, and the nigger fought very well. And after that, what is done to the nigger in Vienna? I mean, we are talking about Vienna of the early 1920s. So beginnings of racism, okay, are already there. Okay, you have to look at the history. I'm very sure that you know what happened in those parts of Europe at one point in history. So the nigger is beaten up. The nigger is, people throw chairs. Yeah, his clothes are stolen, and at the end, what is done to him? What is done to him? How does it end up?
I think they take his clothes and
They take, and he has to borrow money from Bill to go back to wherever he has come from. So that element of racism, but with Jews there is no such thing. There is an overt sympathy with the nigger, okay, but there is no sympathy with Cohn. Cohn is drawn extremely unsympathetically. Now, do you come across anyone German here? There is a reference to a German person also in Pamplona. Maitre Dam, yes. So, Major Domo, yeah, in a hotel, and a waiter also. There is a waiter also, and they just don't like him, and they keep on referring to him as thieves, robbers, mean, and I don't like his smile. He is so white and so pink, white and pink, you know, the references to his skin. So, it's there all over the place. People don't like people because of their races, and races are somehow I felt that they are stereotyped. Yeah. So, this was something that Hemingway was known for. If you read many, and homophobia, he is the one who started it all. Like Brett started the flapper fashion, you know, you remember those lines? She is the one. That's how, you know, many of us who teach fashion studies and all or work on fashion studies and fashion and literature. So, Lady Bresh Atlee, she is the one, she is the one who started it all. Started it all what? The flapper fashion. Okay, she is wearing her hair very short. Remember? Okay, so all, and she belongs to the times and age of Coco Chanel. So, Hemingway is not the ultimate masculine writer, is not going to discuss Coco Chanel, the greatest couturist of all times. Okay, so he is not going to mention that, but he will definitely talk about what was happening around him. Yeah, so those things must have also, the lady on whom Lady Brett Ashley's character is based, she was a typical, you know, product of her age. Okay, if you look at her pictures. All right, we go to now chapter 15 and meet Romero. Chapter 15. Skip down a few paragraphs and then come to Bill's lines, that cone gets me. That cone gets me. Do you get that? That cone gets me, Bill said. He has got this Jewish superiority so strong that he thinks the only emotion he will get out of the fight will be being bored. What is being talked about? This great fight, the bullfight. Now, every season these people come here to watch a bullfight. The bullfight is a very common element in all Hemingway's works. Okay? So, he was very fond of going to Spain. He himself was extremely fond of all these masculine sports, and bullfight is extremely masculine. It is, perhaps now there might be some lady bullfighters, but once upon a time it was a completely male bastion. Okay, so boxing, fishing, hunting, bullfighting, all his, and bullfighting is also a very dangerous sport. Okay, it has that kind of risk. You may not come out of it. Okay, and it also provides a great sense, you know, kind of entertainment to the audiences. If you remember, there is one bullfight. Have you read the novel? There is a bullfight scene where the president himself is watching. He is among the audience. Do you know that? He has got this Jewish superiority so strong that he thinks the only emotion he will get out of the fight will be being bored. We are talking about Cohn's reaction to bullfight. He is not into, he is an intellectual, right? Yeah, he is also into, you know, what kind of a sport is tennis? Tennis is not some great masculine sport. Okay, tennis is a sport of the elites. So, now Cohn is rich, he has intellectual pretensions, and he also thinks that he can get any woman he wants. So people have also already started resenting him. And then his tennis, and he wouldn't like a masculine sport. He has told already everyone that I am going to get terribly bored. I mean, what kind of a bloody and gory sport you are going to take me to? So in the hotel on the stairs we met Montoya. Now you know that characters come and go. They emerge. See, he's not going to build up people. He only builds up one character in the whole novel, Cone, okay, and giving us that false sense of builds up, some kind of a false alarm, the false. He's the false hero of the So the way he is built up, we feel as if he is the central character, but he is not. Now suddenly we find one character, Montoya. Come on, do you want to meet Pedro Romero? And this is the time. This is the first time we are introduced to this. Now in any other novelist, you will find a build up for Romero. Okay, not here. We followed Montoya up a flight and down the corridor. He is in room number 8. He is getting dressed for the bullfight. Montoya is also his. Who is Montoya?
He's an aficionado, I think.
Aficionado, also a kind of an agent for most of these young bullfighters. Manager, yes. Montoya knocked on the door and opened it. It was a gloomy room with a little light coming in from the window on the narrow street. There were 2 beds separated by a monastic partition. The electric light was on. The boy stood very straight and unsmiling in his bullfighting clothes. Now again look at performativity. He is expected to be something. Do you think Jake performs? Everybody performs. Brett performs. Cone performs, but Cone cries so often. No? Yeah, Cone is always shedding tears. At the end also, after beating Romero to pulp, he is the one who cries, not Romero. Okay, so who is the real man after all? Do you think Jake performs? Do you think Bill and Mike perform?
Mike does.
In what respect? Yes, let's get it started because we are coming to Pedro. So, if Mike performs, in what way? Think of, okay, take a moment and we'll get back to it. Okay, so Pedro Romero, okay, so you have to think about these things, masculine performativity. So, this is the key theory, this is the key takeaway from this novel. Judith Butler and David Severn is another name, key name. Many of you may not be familiar with, but he is one of the most influential theorists of masculinity in American literature. I will give you this name. Butler anyway you know, but Butler is not essentially masculine. I have also given, while teaching you the course on film studies, I have also introduced you to a couple of other names, Michael Kimmel, John Boehner, okay, so they are Robert Bly, theoreticians of masculinity. David Severn is an out and out expert on literature, American literature and masculinity. So, if at all you are interested in this, so with reference to this particular novel, his works would be of great, you can look him up. What are the things that go into performance? So, the way you are dressed is the first thing. Okay, so you are supposed to be an intellectual. An intellectual man cannot be dressed in a particular way. He cannot be dressed like a rock star unless and until he is a very subversive kind of an intellectual. Likewise, a rock star cannot be dressed perhaps like a bullfighter, okay, unless and until he is performing for a music video. Yes, so those are the things. So you have to be up here. So we expect something. Let me give you some examples from your immediate knowledge about pop culture. You all know Madonna, the great pop star, okay. So, what comes to your mind when you think Madonna?
She tries to scandalize.
Okay.
Her earrings were.
She did this whole Madonna at the cross thing. Like
Madonna.
she tried to, like, she in one of her performances she acted like she was crucified, and that raised a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
And she's like
So,
kisses all her.
subverting the Catholic rituals and images. Okay. Now think Lady Gaga. Okay, what comes to your mind? Are you aware of Lady Gaga? Okay, what comes to your mind?
Her neat dress.
Her meat dress, her music videos.
No.
So what she is in her music videos or in her acts, on her stage acts, she is also there in her real life. Do you think don't you think that she is also in acting all the time? She is acting all the time, okay? So there is a performance enactment.
Another example is the French duo Daft Punk. They always wear these helmets.
Yeah.
No one's seen their face in like 10 years.
Okay.
Because every time they go out, they're always wearing those helmets.
So it's a part of an image. So you are always performing. Most of us perform all the time, unless and until our guards are down only with people who are very close to us. Yes. So again we look at performativity and Pedro. The boy stood very straight and unsmiling in his bullfighting clothes. His jacket hung over the back of a chair. They were just finishing winding his sash. His black hair shone under the electric light. He wore a white linen shirt, and the sword handler finished his sash and stood up and stepped back. Pedro Romero nodded, seeming very far away and dignified. When we shook hands, Montoya said something about what great aficionados we were and that we wanted to wish him luck. Romero listened very seriously. Then he turned to me. He was the best looking boy I have ever seen. Now you can also see jealousy for Romero begins. Yes, he is a very successful bullfighter, okay, but sexual jealousy part is because of his looks, and therefore when our man Cohn beats him, okay, he really damages his face, and you know what we are talking about. So this is an important part, in sexual jealousy. They see the opponent, they look at the rival, okay, and they want to destroy him. That sense is there implicit right here. Okay. That's what I am trying to tell. Yes, yes. So we have already done that. Yes. You go to the bullfight, he said in English. You know English? I said, feeling like an idiot. No, he answered and smiled. I mean, of course he knows, he speaks English. But no, why should he say no? Again, a part of his performance. A bullfighter has to be an out and out homegrown.
There's this part where Jake says how his English is better than he lets on.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just adding to that image of
A bullfight, a typical matador, a Spanish matador. Okay, you are not supposed to, I mean, the moment you start mingling with other races, the implication is that your own identity has been, your own nationality has been diluted. Okay, and I am sure that you can associate it with things around us as well. Okay, that you have to be, there has to be a staunch sense of a strong nationalism. Okay, linguistic affiliation, national affiliation, jingoism, patriotism, that extreme kind. If you show or reflect influences from other cultural influences from other sections, other parts, okay, then your nationality, your identity, everything is doubted, is under scan.
Which is what happens with all the expats, because they don't have a strong sense of nationality, they don't belong anywhere in particular, and therefore they're drifting. But Romero, on the other hand,
is a very rooted man.
Perform specifically from Spain.
Good. All right. So we have been introduced to Romero. Now, skip 1 page. one page only. Here come the gentry, Bill said. They were crossing the street. Hello men, I said. Hello gents, said Brett. You saved us seats, how nice. Hello men. And then Brett says, Brett is also a part of that. Okay, she is a part of the gang. She is one of the boys. Okay, she is never separated. So no one says, ladies and gentlemen, or here comes Brett and the boys. She is always one among them. She one of the boys. Hello men, hello gents. I don't know if you want to read into Brett's performance here with reference to this sentence. That Romero, what says his name is somebody, am I wrong? Oh, isn't he lovely, Brett said, and those green trousers. Brett never took her eyes off them. I say, I must borrow your glasses tomorrow. How did it go? Wonderfully, simply perfect. I say, it's a spectacle. Now, again, we are talking about performativity. He has to perform to an audience. He has to give them the spectacle, and at the end, at the last fight, when he is beaten, okay, do you think he performs? He rises to the occasion? Yes, he does. Okay, so his face is all bruised. There are shadows on his face. Okay, his eyes are puffed up, but he still gives them a spectacle. So that's what a bullfighter has to do. He is a performer. How about the horses? I couldn't help looking at them. She couldn't take her eyes off them. She is an extraordinary wench. They do have. Who is a wench? What kind of a girl? A regular girl?
Girl next door.
Okay. I couldn't look away though. Did you feel all right? I didn't feel badly at all. Robert Cohn did. You were quite green, Robert. The first horse did bother me. You weren't bored, were you? Cohn laughed. No, I wasn't bored. I wish you would forgive me that. It's all right, so long as you weren't bored. He didn't look bored. I thought he was going to be sick. Now, we move on to the next page. I am going to skip a page. They are something. She wants to see the bullfighters close by, Mike said. They are something. That Romero lad is just a child. He is a damned good looking boy. I said so. Repeated references to his good looks. When we were up in his room, I never saw a better looking kid. How old do you think, do you suppose he is? 19 or 20. Just imagine it. The bullfight on the second day was much better than on the first. Brett sat between Mike and me at the Barrera, and Bill and Cohn went up above. Romero was the whole show. He is the spectacle. What do you understand? Romero was the whole show. He is the performer. Okay. And whether how much is sexuality performed in that act? You have to read the yes. Yeah. So is his performance now? Here comes another question. Does Brett find his performance sexually arousing?
She keeps talking about the green trousers.
Yes. So again we are talking about bodies. Okay, we are talking about the way he performs, and that turns her on.
And not just Brett, I think there's a mention about how there are these ladies who collect young bullfighters
Yes.
later on, and so basically that's the point with performing masculinity like this. It kind of turns everybody
On, men and women alike. Okay, old man. So therefore, do you think there is a specific reason why he is portrayed so young, almost old enough to be Brett's son? She is old enough to be his mother. Okay. So do you think there is any reason that his sexuality is of such kind that it cuts across about the scene?
It's something that none of our other men have.
Yes. So there is some kind of a the it factor in him that really affects everyone. It is, there is. No one else did either except the hard shell technicians. It was all Romero. He was the show. There were 2 other matadors, but they did not count. I sat beside Brett and explained to Brett what it was all about. I told her about watching the bull, not the horse, when the bulls charged the picketers, and got her to watching the picketer place the point of his pick so that she saw what it was all about, so that it became more something that was going on with a definite end and less of a spectacle and unexplained horrors. So, masculinity at its best. I had her watch how Romero took the bull away from a fallen horse with his cape, and how he held him with the cape and turned him smoothly and suavely, never wasting the bull. She saw how Romero avoided every brusque movement and saved his bulls for the last when he wanted them, not winded and discomposed, but smoothly worn down. She saw how close Romero always worked to the bull, and I pointed out to her the tricks the other bullfighters used to make it look as though they were working closely. She saw why she liked Romero's cape work and why she did not like the other. So, she is all eyes. And the way he performs, he is smooth, he is suave, he is slow, he is languid, okay, very fluid with his movements, unlike others who are fast, okay, who have just got a job to do, but he knows he is a performer, he is the show. And then do you remember at there is a point when he is compared to an elderly, an older matador? Who is that guy? Belmondo, who has gone into retirement, and he comes out of his retirement and he wants to, so you see Hemingway wants to give some competition to Romero where skills are concerned, but then it turns out that everybody now wants only Romero. This is that scene where after Romero has been beaten by Cohn. Okay. So, this is also a time he introduces yet another character. Yeah, generally novelists do not introduce an important character by the time they reach the end of the novel, but Hemingway is different, and Belmondo is described at great length. His past adventures, his past victories and triumphs are described in great detail. He is built up, and we are led to believe that we are going to have a spectacle today involving Belmondo, because after all Romero has been beaten to pulp, but then again Romero comes back and steals the show. Okay, and then young lads lift him, and he is so tired, so beaten, so broken, he does not want anyone to touch him, because if you touch him it hurts him, but then still he allows people to touch him, lift him after his victory, and that is the end of it. Okay, so, he has proved himself to be the better man of all. So, there is a question mark, so all the things, the issues that are raised here, questions of bodies, spectacles, performance, masculinities, everything is there in, especially in the last few sections of the novel. So, you have to read the novel in order to understand and see. Any questions, any comment you would like, anything from the entire novel that you want to talk about? We still have some time.
Did Hemingway at any point defend accusations of racism, ma'am?
Not really, not really. Okay, so the people have done work on this aspect of Yab. If you look up, then you will find any number of articles on Hemingway and racism, Hemingway and homophobia, but then he had a way of skirting these questions. I mean, he mentions them. What is there to defend? I mean, is he trying to hint at things in very covert way? No, he is very, very open about it. Yeah. There is a novel, there is another, before I talk about that novel, there is a book called Death in the Afternoon, which is an out and out novella, or not a novella, but it's a total dedication to matadors and the bullfighters in Spain, Death in the Afternoon. And it is replete with homoerotic situations. The bullfighters, their bodies, their performances, their languid masculinities. So it's there. Okay, so he started off with The Sun Also Rises, and then Death in the Afternoon is the culmination, and he is very prolific. If you count his autobiographies and his non-fiction and his short stories, starting from The Sun Also Rises till his posthumously released works, including The Garden of Eden, you will come across strands of racism and homoeroticism, and quite unapologetic about it. All right. So, I finish here. Thank you very much.